Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for streaming in to our very first MRE, My Retention Experience live stream. We are so excited to have you guys on our very first show this evening. This is a show that's going to bring leaders, career counselors, subject matter experts, soldiers, and families all together to talk about topics that are relevant to the retention program. On the same note, in my experience as a career counselor, my fondest memories were when we were sitting down having chow, just sitting in the field, long day of work. We all got down to eat. And that's when the real, the raw, the honest conversations really happened. So that's what we want to bring to you on this show. So the guests that we're going to bring on, I may have sent them just a little something. They don't know what it is yet. They know it's an MRE, but they don't know which one yet, and they're going to open it on their introduction today. And we're going to sit down, we're going to have a meal, and we're just going to talk. And we're going to, hopefully have some really good conversations today. And then we're going to open it up into a Q&A session for our viewers. So that way we can have some live feedback. Today, on our first show, we're going to go over what the Army Retention Program is. Because, we're going to have career counselors in the audience. We're going to have leaders in the audience. But we're hoping we got some soldiers out there that may not be very familiar with what the Army Retention Program is and what we can do for soldiers. So we're going to bring on the 16th Senior Army Career Counselor, and he's going to tell us, what the Army Retention Program is and what we do for soldiers and families every single day. Also on top of that, because this is a new path that we're down, starting to get our message out to the world and to soldiers, we're going to talk about what our communication goals are. What are we doing here? What is this show about, and why we're going to keep going with it? So we got Master Sergeant Will Reinier. He is the MDW Senior Public Affairs NCO. Really good friend of mine, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get in the show. But I think me and him are a perfect example of how a career counselor and a public affairs NCO can leverage each other to make a really great program. So we're going to bring him on to talk about our communications as well. So if we can get both of our guests on the screen, we're going to bring Sergeant Major Tobey Whitney and Master Sergeant Will Reinier. Thank you both so much for being on the show tonight. We greatly appreciate having you guys here with us. So what we're going to do is I'm going to cue you guys in. And when I cue you in, that little thing that I gave you, hidden in a bag, hopefully you didn't open it yet. Nice. You're going to go ahead and show our viewers what you got. And hopefully, I'm sorry if it's not what you wanted. Hopefully it's a good one for you. Sergeant Major, I see your note. I hope I have a good MRE. I hope I provided for you. But go ahead and show everyone what you got. And then while you start preparing it, what we would like to know is, what was your very first retention experience? Was it, when you were re-enlisting, or were you helping a soldier? Or, when did you find out what retention was? So Sergeant Major Whitney, if we can go and start with you.
So thank you, Sergeant Palmer. I got menu 24, the Southwest style beef and black beans. That sounds very good. So I think I got lucky on this one.
Yeah, didn't do too bad.
While I peel this open, I had a very different experience for my first retention experience. Is I was a corporal, I was a medic, and I was in the 82nd Airborne Division. And I had competed at the NCO of the quarter board, and doing those things to try to get myself promoted to sergeant. And the command sergeant major, battalion CSM, was like, "Hey, we have a position that's coming open, and I want to make you the retention NCO." And I was like, "Hey, I'm all for it. What is that?" I had never enlisted. I was initial term soldier. I had no idea what to expect. And so next couple weeks later, I'm in the retention office, and that's how I learned what the Army had to offer, because before that, I had no idea that all these different options and incentives and all these programs were available, because nobody sat down and talked to me. And so to me, that was one of the reasons why when I switched over to become a career counselor, it was so important to me to get that message out, because I didn't get that message until I was already an NCO, and I should have got that message from the time I arrived in the unit. So that was my first retention experience. It wasn't necessarily a good one, but it wasn't a bad one either. So a lot of it was I taught myself as I went along, and I had a great career counselor Master Sergeant Perry and the other battalion, who was trying to take care of me and make sure that I was successful as a battalion retention NCO full time, and that the rest is history.
Thank you so much, Sergeant Major. Yeah, I think I can relate to that first experience as well, and I'll go after Master Reinier here in a little bit. But let's go ahead and pan over to Master Reinier. Let's see what you got from us, and then let's hear about your very first retention experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you said that too, because already one of the comments is, "Where's your MRE?" And so you're not getting left out on this.
Oh no, I'm with you guys.
We're gonna go ahead and open up here. This is a great knot. The Southwest was it Southwest Chicken? It's a pretty good one. This is menu number 6, beef taco filling.
Nice.
I don't think I've ever had this one, so I'm looking forward to it. We'll start to crack this open, and we'll go through it, and we'll give a little review as we go along. So my first retention experience is really interesting. I was PFC Reinier in Ramadi, Iraq. I was a combat engineer, and I'm standing on top of this Buffalo, the big mine MRAP, mine resistant ambush protected. I think I still have that right. Standing on top of this giant vehicle, we're doing some maintenance, and my platoon sergeant comes up and he's like, "Reinier, if you could re-enlist right now, would you do it, and what do you want?" And I was like, yes, and I want to be public affairs. And he kind of looked at me and was like, "What is that?" And I was like, it's public affairs, like writing and photography and video and stuff like that." And he's like, "Okay," and he just like walked off, and that was it. And that was kind of like, oh, what just happened? But what came from that is a few weeks later, when a career council actually reached out to me, what I didn't realize is my platoon sergeant had already kind of prepped the battlefield, so to speak, and so that career counselor already kind of knew, what it was I was looking for. They had already done a ton of research for me. We found out it was a packet MOS that I had to apply for, and like all these conditions that I had to meet, and they had already done a lot of that legwork. So when it was time to re-enlist, it just made that transition so much smoother. And so I think the moral of that story there is really, the impact that your leaders can have in the process of just having that, simple conversation of like, "Hey, what are you looking for? Like, what would it take for you to re-enlist, or what kind of opportunities are you hoping to get out of this?" And then doing something about it. And so leaders taking action really, I think, set the tone for my re-enlistment story. And so I was able to re-enlist, reclass, and so I have been doing public affairs now for, it'll be 11 years in January or next month. And so I think it all worked out pretty well for me.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I'm very glad that you got your public affairs MOS, because you wouldn't be here with us today. And I think you and I have a very special public affairs career counselor thing going. So I think your first career counselor did right. Yeah.
I think it's great. I really enjoy that. I think public affairs and career counselor both, kind of focus on the people aspect and, helping people kind of figure out what is the right next move for them. Maybe it's in the Army, maybe it's not. And so just kind of helping them prepare for what's next and taking advantage of those opportunities. So Sergeant Major Whitney, can you still hear me out there? Can we get him back on the screen? We have some logistical questions on the MREs to discuss.
Yeah, I'm warming up mine right now. So
that was the question.
Yep, I'm heating mine up, and I have some nice cheese spread that I'm going to put in there with my Southwest or style beef and black beans, because I like the cheese whiz in there. But and I have some nice Chipotle tortillas that I'm going to have. I don't know if that's going to work out, but.
Man, I'm just gonna I'll trade you plain tortillas for Chipotle tortillas. That's how it works, right?
No trading, no trading. Okay, you get what you get. I don't want to be left out. I'm feeling a little left out, so we gotta check mine out. So while I open mine, my first retention experience, I was deployed as well. I was in Afghanistan. I was a specialist, and I was a 74 Delta Seaburn. And at the time, we were overstrength. And I didn't understand fully what overstrength meant when the career counselor came and visited the fob. And so, my mindset being a fairly new soldier was like, oh, I'm not allowed to stay in this MOS because I'm overstrength. There's nothing I can do about this. So I was immediately set on reclassification, but not because I wanted to reclass, because I felt like I had to. And it turned out to be a beautiful thing because, I ended up wanting to reclass, but I didn't know if I could handle the job I wanted, because I wanted to be a surgical tech, but I didn't know if I could handle blood and needles. And so the company retention NCO, she's like, no, you know what? I got you. If you want to find out if this is what you can do, I'm going to set you up and you're going to scrub into a surgery in Salerno, Afghanistan. And if you can handle that, you can handle anything. So this company retention NCO actually took the time out of her day to find out if this was going to be a good job for me and a good future for me. And so I got to go into this surgery, and it was an Afghan male with an infected gunshot wound to his abdomen, and it was horrible. It's absolutely horrendous, but I stuck it through. And I remember how proud I was that I did that. And all of a sudden I wanted this job more than anything. And I never would have wanted that if this person didn't take my career into their hands and really fully invest their time in this. And so, I wanted to be a career counselor because of what that one person did for me, because my career was important to them. So with that, oh man, I didn't get that lucky. I got a creamy spinach fettuccine, egg noodles, spinach, and mushrooms.
How can you not have a better MRE than that? That is,
Yeah.
I'm excited for you to see that one.
You know what they say, the best MRE is the one that's in your hand. I've never heard anybody say that, but I think it sounds good.
I think we're going to steal that for the show. All right,
what are you guys using for your or something? Or do you guys have rocks? Do y'all have rocks in your office? Did I miss out?
No rocks.
You have an or something?
Or something?
Or something.
I don't know. I'm going to get mine figured out, but while I get mine figured out, so I'm not too noisy here. Let's go ahead and get, let's get to the main part here. So let's start diving into, we'll start with you, Sergeant Major Whitney, and let's just talk about the retention program. As I said earlier, we're going to have a lot of career counselors in the audience, a lot of leaders in the audience, but I'm hoping that there's some soldiers out there that can really benefit from hearing about what the retention program is, what we do, how we serve as soldiers, and kind of tie into what our plan is with this whole communications goal of ours.
Got it. Too easy. Yeah. So, the Army retention program, the retention program as a whole, has a very significant role for the Army. It goes far beyond reenlisting or extending soldiers. That's just a small portion of what the career counselors do every day. A career counselor is assigned to a battalion organization or maybe a brigade. And we have about 900 NCOs that are serving as career counselors in the Army. And they're basically the Army one source within your organization. They're a resource for you for information on promotions, programs, colleges. They can help you provide opportunities within your current MOS, or what about a new MOS? And so there's a lot of different things that a career counselor can provide to the soldiers and their families. And we're a resource for, I'm not a financial counselor by any means. I'm not a housing counselor, but we have the resources. We have the ability to help soldiers be successful and address those quality of life issues. There's one of the key roles that I have as a career counselor, no matter where I'm assigned, is I'm the person, the go-between between a soldier and the leadership, the commander and the command sergeant major. So, there might be something that's going on, and I'm not saying that we're trying to cause problems, but if there's something going on, if there's an issue that's not being addressed, if that issue comes to me as a career counselor and I know it's adversely affecting the soldiers, it's my duty, my responsibility to bring that up to the leadership and say, hey, not necessarily by name or not necessarily by company, but hey, how do we address this issue? And so we can help soldiers with those quality of life issues that they feel like it's falling on deaf ears. And so there's some important things to that. And then ultimately, in the retention program, one of the goals of the retention program is to keep soldiers in the United States Army. It's an all-volunteer force. Nobody is required to stay. So it's important for us to help identify what things a soldier would like, soldiers and their families. What is it you would like to do? What's your goals? What's your plans? And how can I, as the person in the middle, try to navigate that with you and help take what the Army needs you to do? What does the Army have to offer to you? And let's help align that with what you want to do. If you're in an MOS that's over strength and you might have 700 promotion points, but the promotion points stay at 750, 798 every single month. There's no potential for you to get promoted unless there's like one all of a sudden dip. There are a lot of things that as a career counselor, we can take all these soldiers, we can take all your information and we can help find you an MOS that's going to get you promoted, possibly a bonus, possibly a new duty station, a lot of different things that are going to move you in the right direction to help improve your quality of life because you're making more money. You're in a new MOS with hopefully some better job satisfaction for you. Because, I was lucky in that, I selected when I came in as a medic. So I was in a profession that I loved. I loved being a medic. I absolutely loved it. And so I didn't have any issues with staying a medic until I became an NCO when I stopped doing medical care. All I was doing was being an NCO, and I wanted to be a medic. I wanted to treat people. And so that's when the opportunity came along for me to reclassify and become a career counselor. And I think that's important for soldiers to understand, is that you're not necessarily tied to this specific MOS. Most of us did not want to, or didn't know what, most people don't come in the Army. They have no idea what a parachute rigger really does. They have no idea what a light wheel mechanic truly does. You have to go and experience it for yourself. You watch a video, or you might have had a friend who did it, but until you do it yourself. And during your time in the Army, if you're like, this isn't what I wanted to do. I want to go be cyber. I want to go hack into people's systems. I want to go play defense, or I would like to go be an OR tech, whatever it may be. It's a career counselor that can help you find that path to getting you what you want and helping you navigate your career. And let's be honest, I'm an advocate. I firmly believe that even if I switch to the new MOS, the grass isn't always greener, right? So unless there's some reason down the road that says that you cannot leave that MOS, maybe you're at 50% strength and we just can't lose anybody, there's even another opportunity to possibly reclassify again, depending on what we need and what suits the soldier. So the Army Retention Program has a lot of opportunities for soldiers. But back to the communication plan is 20, 30 years ago, we didn't have all of the social media. We didn't have all the platforms that you got live instantaneous information. And for the past 20 years, the Army Retention Program really has kind of missed out on the opportunity to get information into the hands of soldiers, families, leaders with a click of a button. We had some great assistance from ArmyReenlistment.com. They provided a service that we should have started 20 years ago. And I'm very thankful to them. And I hope that we continue to have support with them. I love them and what they do for soldiers and families. But really, it belongs to the Army to get our message out there. We shouldn't rely on a different organization to get our message out there. So that's why it was so important to come up with our own PAO program and to get our message out there, because real-time information to the people who are making decisions about their life, that's how we got to do this. And so I'm really glad that we have things like this in our social media pages, Reddit, because it's important that people know what's going on immediately rather than hearing it second and third hand information from other people and the barracks lawyers, right? So, but with that, unless you have something else, I'll send it back over to you, Sergeant Palmer.
Thank you, Sergeant Major. Yeah, I am so thankful that you decided to take the program down this path to be more open in the social media world. Because, as a career counselor straight out of production, it's hard to communicate a message to 800 plus people at the same time. And we have social media, and it's such a great tool, and that number gets larger as you have bigger, organizations. So to be able to do this on the mass scale that we are is awesome. And I remember when I first started this position, you walked me over to the SMA's front office and said, I want to introduce you to somebody. And that's when I met Master Sergeant Will Reinier. And, that quick introduction of, hey, he is the SMA's public affairs, I think he can help you. That turned into this like wonderful working relationship that we have maintained ever since. It turned into going and grabbing smoothies for lunch and just talking about communications and just talking about how can we make these two things jive to where we're getting this real-time information to soldiers, but also just getting more in-depth information to them and more understanding and more clarification. And that's how this show grew. So with that, Master Sergeant Reinier, if you want to jump on and tell us what your thoughts are with how we're trying to create these communication goals and how that's going to really help the soldiers and how it's going to help the retention program communicate just, not even reenlistment options. How is it going to help communicate to soldiers that we can assist them with different things in their careers? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, first off, so I made a little bit of a mistake. I left my MRE in the car, and it's been about 20 to 30 degrees, so it's been really cold out. So I'm like really taking advantage of this heater, right? And I've got a little pro tip. You've got your little cardboard sleeve in the new ones. The main course is in the bag, but if you look in there, I've got my side course like hugged up against it too, because it was that cold. But I'm actually pretty hungry, so I'm looking forward to that. Maybe whenever we go back over to Summers or Whitney, I'll dig into that and be able to give you my review. For information, though, I think that soldiers are always looking for information, and that's not just soldiers; it's just people. People are just always looking for information, and we've gotten very accustomed to having that information, like literally right here. Like I have the whole world, everything I need to do is right here, and I can get it right now. But where that becomes difficult, right, is, you don't always have 24/7 access to the career counselor or to, even your first line leader, right? Everyone, we're people. We don't like to call each other after hours. And sometimes that's when people are doing their research and they just want to hear somebody else's perspective or, find out what was the path that somebody took to get where I think I want to go. I still remember, many, many years ago, there was a guy on social media who I found out was a public affairs NCO, and I sent him a direct message and I was like, hey, can you tell me about this job? And he was very gracious with his time, and I still remember and thank him to this day for kind of opening that door to me. So when we talk about, the need for information, it's obvious. And I think the real advantage that, any kind of program can have is the ability to own their own narrative and to own that space where people are looking for information and really give themselves the opportunity to be that expert, to be the authoritative figure on whatever it is. So, by seeing the Army Retention Program really step into this, venue, step into the arena, so to speak, the opportunities are huge to be able to communicate on a mass scale. And, recognizing for the soldiers that are out there finding this information, just because the opportunity exists for you to reclass or get a bonus or go to a duty station doesn't mean that that opportunity is going to exist for you. And so that's a really key component of this. The whole program is we're communicating all these different opportunities to find meaningful ways to continue your service. Just understanding that, just because you saw it on the internet doesn't mean that that's an opportunity that's going to be available to you. So that's where your leader engagement and early engagement with your career counselors is so important. And I even go back to my own experience of reclassing into public affairs. There was like I said, it was a packet MOS. Like I had to submit, a packet just to get accepted into the schoolhouse. And if I didn't know that that was a requirement, if I hadn't worked with my career counselor to work through that requirement and meet that gate, then, it could have delayed that opportunity and maybe the training seats all go away. And then, now my reenlistment window is coming to a close and I'm not able to kind of get, what I want. And, who knows what that does. So I think that's really the biggest thing, especially as we're communicating, just looking for those opportunities to be the experts, own that space, and then, be able to own the narrative of what the reenlistment or the retention program is. So I don't know, what's been your experience like so far using the digital space?
So I think so far, it's a lot to your point. It's really clarification more than anything, because we do have a career counselor in every battalion, every brigade. So there's somebody there advising and assisting soldiers and showing them in real time on the screen, these are your reenlistment options. But then, somebody goes online, and fairly so, right? Because sometimes they're just hanging out and an idea pops in their head, and it's 18, 1900 at night. They don't want to go text their career counselor. So they're going to go online and ask their peers. And I think that's more than fair. But then it kind of turns into, well, wait a minute, why'd you get this? And I didn't get that. And so this job has been a lot of just clarifying that, everybody gets different, while there's the set options, everybody's personal qualifications must be taken into account. Your career counselor isn't necessarily wrong in what they said, and here's your why. And sometimes they just want that double why. Sometimes the career counselor's given the why, but they want the double why. And I don't mind doing that. I think it's an awesome opportunity. And I think that this job has really helped. And that's from my lens. I'm curious to see what other people's lenses are.
Kind of what you're saying there, just like in public affairs, you have a spectrum of experience and, knowledge of some of those programs. And so, you may have a career counselor who's maybe just never done that before. Maybe they're kind of reading through and they're like, this doesn't look possible. And kind of getting that confirmation is one way. One of the risks of social media, and Sergeant Major Whitney, if we can pull him on, as you get these questions, they can be kind of very niche, like very specific. So, you start to see things like, we were talking about, all the options available. And I saw one question that I thought was really interesting, and Sir Major Whitney, I'd love to hear your opinion on this. Looking at soldiers, when we're looking at all the options available, obviously duty station of choice is a really popular one for any number of reasons. But what are some of the limitations on that, specifically as it relates to like the enlisted marketplace?
That mute button, that elusive mute button, all of a sudden it like disappears from your screen when you need to do it. But I will tell you, before I answer your question, that's our Reinier, is I'm glad you brought up the point of not everything is available to everybody. There's a lot of, I want to call it bandwagoning, where, hey, this guy over here, he got this assignment, or she got this MOS, or she got a bonus that I wasn't eligible for or qualified for. But not every soldier situation is the same. As an example, 11 Bravo, an infantryman, if you have other qualifications, you're J3 qualified, if you're Ranger qualified, if there are different bonuses for different people based off of your skill set. So it may not be applicable to each person. However, that's one of those conversations they should have with their career counselor, because there are opportunities to get those qualifications that would allow them to get the opportunities and the bonuses and the assignments that they don't qualify for now, but they could in the future. And we have to also take into consideration that if I have 2 MOSs, and we've seen this happen before, where people were denied the opportunity to reclassify, not through reenlistment, but just, hey, I want to change my MOS to this MOS, where let's say I'm a staff sergeant and I'm in an MOS and I've been a staff sergeant for 12 months, I'm heading very close to that opportunity where I'm going to be evaluated for consideration for promotion to sergeant first class, and I want to change my MOS. If you've already completed ALC, for example, there's a lot of MOSs that aren't willing to accept a staff sergeant who's already ALC qualified, because you will have private first class in your organization that know more about what you're doing for your technical job than you do. And I'm not saying that leadership is leadership. If you're a good squad leader or a team leader, you could be a good team leader or squad leader in any MOS. I believe that. But when it comes to the technical aspect of your profession, what you missed out on in those first years, and now you're a staff sergeant, you're leading an organization, you're leading a squad of people who rely on you to develop them, but you're still trying to learn that yourself. So there are times where we don't have the opportunities that we would like to do. And it's not because the retention program wants to limit you. The proponents for those MOSs have said, we will not accept them. And so, you know, like you said, I'm glad you brought that up, because not every opportunity is available to everybody. There's certain situations that affect every person. But when it comes to your reenlistment options, if you're in your reenlistment window and you get a notification you're in the marketplace, that does not mean that you cannot reenlist for an assignment. If I go see retention and there's an assignment that says, hey, you want to go to Fort Moore, Georgia, I can go ahead and take that assignment and reenlist for that assignment. And when the marketplace closes, they will see that I've already selected a different assignment, and I will not be placed on the assignment that I preferenced in the marketplace. So that does not limit specifically your options. Now, the longer you wait, when the market closes, you're already on assignment. That changes the game, because now you're already on an assignment or a job opening in the Army. So that takes different policies, different levers to try to get you to go where you want. So the sooner you take action, the better. And, you know, one of the things that people have to understand is there is no perfect solution. So you have people that they enter their reenlistment opportunity window 5 days after the market closes, or 5 days after they're put on assignment.
Yeah.
There's, no matter what policies the Army has for anything, there's always going to be people that miss out, or that, you know, miss the opportunity. It's impossible for us to have policies that are equal for every person at every single moment. We have to let it play out.
Social media has led me to believe that everybody should get exactly what they want every single time, and I got it. It's a 1 million person Army. It's not feasible. I do want to comment on this. This is the Santa Fe rice and beans. This is one of those MRE bites that I shouldn't be making you all look at this, but like this, this is definitely the just close your eyes and eat, 'cause it's pretty good. I think I squished it around too much, like trying to heat it up evenly, because it's like a rice paste. It's not bad though. Like the flavors are definitely there. So huge ups to DevCom for that.
So Palmer, how's your meal going over there?
It's so bad. It's so bad. It smells bad and it tastes bad. But
did it come with Tabasco?
These little things, I smelled one earlier before I tried it, because I was really nervous. They're pretzel nuggets, and they're honey mustard and onion flavored. And I was like, what?
You had me in the first half.
These things are amazing. These things are these are my new favorite. But this spinach, I'm not going to do what Will did and show the screen, show the audience what it looks like. It's bad.
It's like a creamed spinach or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll keep eating it for the sake of the show.
Master Reinier, we have not seen proof that she's actually tried it yet.
I don't know if
I think she's lying.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's go. Load it up. Take a bite. The people. Yeah. What is that? Baby food?
It's lovely.
Now, put that back. That's not. I want to see the packet it came out of. I think it gave us the bait and switch.
All right. So with that,
the great news is your OCPs. You could spill it down the front of your OCPs, and you just wipe it off. Nobody will know. It'll be fine.
Probably have to burn them. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not great, but it's not. All
right. So
with that,
go ahead.
Major. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, while you eat some more of your green spinach, excuse me for chewing on live TV, but I wanted to address one of the comments that came into us on Reddit over the past couple of days.
Okay.
And there's a constant concern, there's a constant narrative that the Army we're spending so much money on bonuses for people to come in off the streets who have no experience, no qualifications, but we're not investing in the soldiers that are currently in the Army. And I want people to understand, and I think most career counselors out there, hopefully most leaders, but I need soldiers to understand that a re-enlistment bonus, a selective retention bonus, has nothing to do with how the Army views you or values you as a soldier, as an individual, or in what you do on a daily basis. If we could pay bonuses or incentives for that, that would be incredible. But we have a law, and we have the Department of Defense has specifically dictated that the only way we can pay a selective retention bonus to soldiers is if they're in a critical skill or assigned to a critical unit or a critical location that has a retention rate or a manning rate that you have to have the bonus to be able to do it. And part of this narrative is you see a lot in the media space. There's a lot of advertisements to get soldiers to go see a recruiter. Up to $50,000 if you join now. We want to get them in the door, and some people will qualify for $50,000.
Yeah.
But not as many as you think. And
No.
if you look at it, it's the same skills that on active duty we offer those soldiers up to $100,000 for a re-enlistment. So
yeah.
There are
Also,
things that go into it based off of the criticality of the skill, but it's not that we're paying all this money to soldiers to come in off the streets. We're taking care of the people in the Army that we can take care of. And before we switch over to you, Master Reinier, I want everybody to understand that last year in FY23, we retained 62,000 enlisted soldiers in the United States Army through our retention program. So 49,000 of them re-enlisted for some option, right? 49,000 soldiers re-enlisted, not extended last year. So if we were just to give a $5,000 incentive to every one of those people, we're looking at $247 million just for that $5,000 to each person. If you go to $10,000, you're looking at $490 million. And that's not even counting what you'd have to pay cyber, special forces, the intelligence community, where those critical skills, we would have, it's impossible for the military to be able to pay the amount of money it would take if we did this for everybody. So it has to go back to the law and the DoD policy that is based off of critical skills, the critical needs, and that's where our priority has to be.
Yeah, two things that immediately come to mind. We need to start talking about money. I hope soldiers realize that, money is finite, even for the Army. It may not feel like it sometimes, but, if we were to take the, what was that number at 5,000? What was that total?
247 million if every person got a $5,000 bonus.
247 million has to come from somewhere. Maybe that's, barracks renovations. Maybe that's, getting a new rifle, or fixing your vehicles or maintenance or whatever, right? That money has to come from somewhere, and I'm not saying that it would all come from one place, but it's understanding that yes, we could take and pay that money in one spot, or if we could pay that money, then it still has to come from somewhere else. The other thing that I was thinking about is the options available at reenlistment I think are in a lot of ways better than the options available at your initial enlistment, because a lot of times they're more tailored to what you're looking for, or what you need. So just one example, I'll give my personal example. My first reenlistment, I used it to reclass. My second reenlistment, I used it for stabilization, and I got the college option and was able to take 3 months and go to school. And I was, reporting to the office twice a week, and was able to use those other days for school as a local commanders program. And we can talk about all the authority and abilities commanders have in the retention. My third reenlistment was to duty station of choice. My family and I got to go to Colorado. That's where my daughter was born. I think that's probably going to be where we retire. So that was great. And then, my last reenlistment was my indefinite reenlistment. And no, sorry, there was another reenlistment between that. I extended in order to transfer my GI Bill benefits to my daughter. And so I reenlisted for that. And then my final one, my in-depth reenlistment, was I was able to get continuation pay. And I think continuation pay is one of those ones that a lot of people don't know about, and it's really frustrating. Like, how come I don't get a bonus as a careerist? Well, actually, you do. And no other reenlistment except for the one at continuation pay uh, did I ever get a bonus. So, and I know that I'm not trying to say like I didn't get one, so you shouldn't get one either. I'm just saying that those options are out there, and that's why I think that having each time I did that, it was a conversation with the career counselor to figure out what was the best opportunity for me at that point. And so, just circling the whole thing back is, the importance of having those conversations early when your window opens.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And, um, I think for me, yeah, I'm a sergeant major. It's different for me, but I was once a PFC too. And so I didn't continue to serve because any kind of bonuses, and people have different motivations. Some people serve because of patriotism. Some people serve because of their families, the health benefits, whatever the case may be. So there's something out there for everybody. We just have to find what motivates them, and let's make that happen, because we have a lot of flexibility in the retention program. And I'm glad you brought up the NCO Career Status Program, because that is one of the hot topics that comes up consistently. Is why don't I get any options? Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do that? And so if I can, Sergeant Palmer, if I could dispel a couple of myths about this, do I have time to do that?
Yes, Sergeant Major, we have a couple more minutes, and then you beat me into the Q&A session. So we'll do some Mythbusters, and then we'll jump into
Okay, so
our
I'll
Q&A
wait.
session.
I'll wait.
No, go ahead, Sergeant Major, because then we can do that, and we'll knock right into the Q&A, and then we'll close it out.
I like Mythbusters.
Mythbusters are good.
I think that, one of the misconceptions about the NCO Career Status Program is you're signing your life away, and now you're stuck in the Army in doing what you're doing, never getting an opportunity for the rest of your career. And that's absolutely not the case. There's still opportunities if you're in the NCO Career Status Program that you can still apply for voluntary reclassification. You can still work on special assignments. You can still apply to be an officer or a warrant officer. And there are also opportunities in the NCO Career Status Program where, let's say today, I'm a staff sergeant. I'm at 8 years in the Army. And you know what? My family and I, we decided we want to go to Fort Carson, Colorado. We signed a 6-year reenlistment contract. And we're going to go there. And when we get there, something happens. Life changes for everybody. I need to move closer to my mother or my father. I can't bring them to me. And I have to go. I have to take care of them. So I requested a compassionate reassignment. There's no military bases close by. I'm obligated, unless I get a hardship separation, which is hard to do, I'm obligated to serve 6 years. And you also have in the NCO Career Status Program, if my life situation changes and it's absolutely necessary for me to separate from the Army, even if I want to stay, I can request separation. And as long as I'm not serving on a service obligation for promotion or a new duty assignment, I can request that separation and go take care of my family. There's nothing that says you can't come back once that situation is taken care of. It's a voluntary separation. So it's not there's nothing negative about it, but allows you the flexibility to take care of things if they need to be taken care of. And so I hope people aren't afraid of the NCO Career Status Program, because it's actually one of the best options we have available to us. And it allows soldiers the most flexibility of any option that we have. So, Sergeant Palmer?
Absolutely, Sergeant Major. I couldn't agree more. So, like I said, we jumped into one of the questions already, and I greatly appreciate it, Sergeant Major, because that's one down. I want to start off our question and answer session for anybody watching. Then go and submit some questions to us. If we don't get to your question, if you ask it here on this live and we don't get to it due to time, I want to let you know that I will personally staff your question and I will get it back to you by the end of the week. That is if it's asked here on this live.
I see you will. Say one thing with question and answer, and I'm scanning through the Reddit thread right now with the questions, and I love you guys. Thank you so much for asking questions. But understanding that there are things that just don't really pertain to the retention program, and so the PAO in me is kind of like looking at a question, going, okay, that's off topic. So if we don't answer a question, maybe it's not that it may just be something outside of the retention programs area, like why don't we get more pay raises? Well, Congress decides how much our pay raises are. Why don't we offer retention bonuses to these? Something we've already talked about. Have we talked about making BAH a reenlistment incentive? It's that really is in. Some of these things are just not conversations for the retention program. Or there's other reasons why we can't do it, like Sergeant Major Whitney said, either different laws or regulations that the retention program is bound to kind of operate within. So if we don't answer your question, it may be for one of those reasons, and I'm looking forward to seeing just kind of what we got out of here.
Yeah, thank you. That was actually a fantastic disclaimer. Thank you, Master Reinier. So with the question and answer session, like I said, if you ask it here in this live tonight, and we don't get to it, I will staff your question and I will get back to you. With that, I want to start off with a quick question myself as people are rolling them in. Master Reinier, so I think this is a great one to start with because as I mentioned earlier in the show, you and it took one introduction of like, here's your public affairs,
Yeah.
And we found a really good way on how to collaborate the retention program and how to get communication goals and how to make some priorities out of it. For the career counselors in the battalions and the brigades, what benefit do you think that they can find in working with their public affairs, minus the usual, hey, can you come take photos of this ceremony?
Yeah.
You being public affairs, do you think that there's something that they can collaborate at that level together?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. You ask me to come take pictures of your reenlistment ceremony, I'm probably just gonna show up with this right here because the phone on these cameras these days are phenomenal. Like, just as good as really a lot of the DSLRs that we have. But I think what it boils down to is understanding, where your objectives, for public affairs and for retention have some significant overlap. I can almost guarantee you in every command in the Army, there's something that essentially talks about retaining the best soldiers or, taking care of people, something in your commander's guidance, your lines of effort, your base order for the year, like there's some version of that, right? And so what I would say to career counselors and PAOs alike is find out where those overlaps are and how, kind of a rising tide lifts all ships situation where, where can you work together and, how can you leverage the capabilities of public affairs and combine that with the information that our career counselors have. And then what do you do with that? How do you get that out across your formations? How do you leverage the networks and the mediums that you have available to you? And maybe it's, just packaging things in a way that can then be delivered through the chain of command. And those are talking points for your leaders to use when they're engaging with soldiers. This idea that at some point in the week, for the majority of the Army, if you're a leader, you're gonna be standing in front of your soldiers. If you're a first sergeant, you're gonna have your soldiers in front of you. Maybe it's just a few ways that public affairs can help you package new information or important critical information and have that on a card for those leaders. Or maybe it is social media. I think it just boils down to first understanding what objectives you're trying to accomplish, what the mission is, and then what capabilities you have that you can kind of put this all together and how does it work for both programs.
Awesome. I appreciate that. We got a question in from the audience, and Sergeant Major Whitney, this one is for you. How will the introduction of the 420 Tango impact the future of the Army retention program?
Great, thank you. So that's to be determined. I will tell you that, the 420 Tango is still a work in progress, but it's primarily at this time, it's primarily focused on our sessions. And it's going to supplement the program to try to help us pinpoint what's working, what's not working. How can we find ways to increase our sessions in each different market? And so the 420 Tango is a source of information to do analysis and research and to put together things to help the recruiting command and the sessions improve on the number of people who are joining the Army. How it's going to evolve in the future, we don't know. We just don't know right now, because as we evolve in the accessions and retention, as we move forward, there are things that they can help supplement us. And it's anything that can enhance both accessions and retention. It's a positive thing, because we always want to increase accessions. We always want to increase retention, because it allows us to have more flexibility if we're not critically short in these MOSs, to then allow soldiers to come out of those MOSs or do other things. And so there's a lot of concerns, especially within the Army retention field, about what a 420 Tango will do for our program or against our program. And I tell my response is to not worry about that. Let us see how this process evolves, but understand that right now 420 Tango is a warrant officer position that will augment us and the sessions to help increase our ability to enhance the accessions program.
Thank
A
you,
little
Sergeant
off
Major.
topic. A little
Yeah,
off
go
topic,
ahead.
but I thought I was doing the right thing to warm up the tortilla. If you like Mexican food, you know the tortilla has to be warm. It started to break up on me. I don't know if you guys had that issue before, but I don't know. I think I'm kind of with the guy earlier, like we're heating up the MREs. Sometimes you snip the corner and just like suck it through and squeeze it because you're just like hungry and tired and you want to go to bed.
I'm pretty certain that I saw. I'm pretty certain I only saw Sergeant Palmer take one bite of her entire meal. And then she chewed on that thing for like 10 minutes while we were talking. So
she's so nervous. I don't know if we want her filling her stomach with MRE fettuccine or what was it, tortellini.
Didn't get spinach.
What did you get on the side? Were your
I've been
sides
eating
any
them.
good?
I've been eating the pretzels. The pretzels are great.
Oh, that pretzels.
This is more tolerable when you've been out in the
Mhm.
field all day long and you're tired
Uh-huh.
and you're cold and you're hungry, and just anything hot is great. This is not. I'm doing it. I'm doing it for the show.
But I do have my cool mocha cappuccino instant powder that I need to enjoy when we get off of here too.
Oh, that's a good one. I don't know. I guess there's just a lot of calories in it because I got like rice and beef filling and tortillas and a pound cake. And like I don't know. I thought there was like not more, but just different. I don't know. This feels like there's not a ton of things in here, but they got this very packed in with calories.
For those carb counters, those keto-aholics, definitely do not drink this, because this package alone is 21 grams of carbs. So I'll enjoy it. I'll enjoy it on your behalf if you're a keto or you're a dieter.
Nice.
Those are all sugars too. Every bit of them.
So while we're waiting for some more questions, though, I do, we're about 8 minutes out from the end of the show. So while we wait to see if any more come rolling in, I do want to let everybody know that, some of the future shows, what are our plans, as we mentioned earlier, right? So tonight was such a great way of building transparency in what we're doing. What is the Army Retention Program? Some of those questions we've already seen come up, on Reddit threads and things like that, and what the future looks like in this show. And you mentioned a couple of them tonight. Was we want to talk about things that soldiers might not necessarily know about, continuation pay, transferring your GI Bill benefits. We want to dig into those things that are not necessarily derived about what is my next duty assignment, what is my bonus. We want to talk about things that help you and help your families. You okay, Master Reinier? Okay, but and that's the show's we're gonna, as we see common questions and common things come up, those are things that we want to target. We want to get people from the education center on, and we want to talk about that. We want to talk about tuition assistance and credentialing assistance, and like I said, transferring your GI Bill benefits. What does that entail? Because a lot of those have a lot of rumors around those too, on who is qualified and who can and cannot get them. And we, as career counselors, I think we owe it to help in clarifying those messages. And that way, when soldiers do go get a service remaining requirement for something like transferring their GI Bills, we're there to help explain the why. So these shows will impact more than just, retention options. We're going to have command policy on, uniform policy, different organizations soldiers might not necessarily know about. Is that what, Master Reinier, what do you think about those kind of topics?
Well, I think something you hit on there is really important. It's this idea that, a little bit. Sorry.
It's almost like you got spinach.
It's a sneaky one. Just this idea that there's going to be a little bit of something for everybody, right? So it's not just a show for career counselors. It's not just a show for soldiers. It's, we're also talking about, from the conversations we've had, almost made it. The conversations we've had, how to, inform leaders with this information. And then I really like the mentorship that's already kind of started in the comments section here. One thing I would say to the audience, like, what do you guys want to hear about? And then Sergeant Palmer, what I would challenge you to is finding who's the right person to come on and talk authoritatively. Maybe it's we really want to talk about cyber. Well, do we find that 17 series soldier, or is it, is there a leader from that organization that, we can bring on and just kind of talk through, what, what this means. So I think there's a ton of opportunity here. I think there's a really good, has the chance to become a really great way to just engage the audience. And when we say the audience, it is not just career counselors. And maybe that's one of the biggest things that people can take away from the first one. So I'm going to mute my microphone and try to die on air.
But 100% agree. This show is not just for career counselors. This show is for soldiers, their families, their friends, leaders, career counselors, subject matter experts that say, hey, this is actually, we might marry up with retention on this topic. It's for everybody collectively. I think we have a huge audience. Sergeant Major, I see a question that I think we can throw towards you. For a new career counselor, what do you think is the most valuable thing that they can focus on initially to be successful?
Well, I'm assuming that question is what should they focus on to be successful as it pertains to the soldiers and their organization, because that's the focus of every career counselor should be on taking care of the soldiers and the families in that organization and the leadership of that organization. And what happens for us is secondary to that. If it results in me getting promotion or whatever the case may be, our sole purpose, what's going to make you successful as a new career counselor is a lot of times you're going to as a new career counselor, you're going to an organization that you were not in before. Most of us don't go to school to become a career counselor and go right back to the same location. So you have to learn the mission set for that organization and understand the people in that organization and what makes them click. The only way that you can really help soldiers and their families and the organization is if you understand the needs and the operational environment that they're in. And that is the most important thing you can do, is to understand the people and the organization itself, and then figure out through your experience, a little bit of trial and error, and with the help of your battle buddies to your left and right, is to figure out how to make you value added to that organization. That's going to make you successful, because nobody in an organization wants a career counselor who only comes to talk to them if they need something, right? If I'm out there and I'm with everybody else in the organization every day doing PT, going to the range, doing all the things that everybody else is doing, those conversations come naturally. And when it comes time to re-enlist, that isn't even a conversation when I have to go track somebody down and say, hey, have you thought about re-enlisting? We've already talked about that 50 million times while we're sitting around eating an MRE, or we're shooting because somebody, for whatever reason, cannot hit the target from 25 meters. And you're like, well, let's have another conversation. What do you want to talk about now? So that's what's going to make you successful, is be a part of the unit, learn what makes that unit click, the people in that organization click, and then figure out your role within that team.
Yeah, that's great advice, Reinier. I would even say for public affairs as well. Like that's just great advice for public affairs soldiers to really make sure you understand the organization and add value. So, I kind of laughed about the retention photos. still talk to your public affairs. You got a really cool retention story, and there's an opportunity to highlight a really deserving soldier. PAs don't tell them no. Have the conversation, and maybe it fits. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what you said, Sergeant Major. My very first command sergeant major, when I became a career counselor, he made me learn about that unit, and he made me learn about the MOSs within that unit. And he made me spend about 2 weeks just researching those specific MOSs, and I had to come to him with different data points that I found, how, what's their success rates in certain promotions between ranks. And he took me to the range. Being a young career counselor, it was kind of nerve-wracking at first. Even though you've been to the range your whole career, when you become a career counselor, you feel like everyone's looking at you.
Did you have to eat an MRE while everyone was looking at you?
Sure did. We sat around, we had chow, and that's kind of, that's a lot of
beef taco. That's great.
But I think those were amazing comments. So we were at the end of our time, though. Unfortunately, I think we could be spitting back and forth, forever. 1 hour went extremely fast. But we're at the end of our time for tonight. I can't thank you guys enough for coming on and spending some time. Sergeant Major Whitney, we really appreciate you spending your evening with us, talking about the retention program. Master Sergeant Reinier, talking about the communications and how these come together. Thank you for your time. And to the audience, thank you so much for being here tonight. We appreciate you guys spending an evening with us. And hopefully you guys had some dinner while we did too. Hopefully I get a better MRE on the next show, but it is what it is. And I do hold true to my message earlier that if you asked a question here, we just didn't have enough time for that. We want to answer your question, and I will staff those. Sergeant Major, do you have any last comments? And then Master Reinier, we'll move to you really fast.
I score at a scale of 1 to 10. My MRE was probably about a 6. I mean, once I put the cheese in there and then the spiced apples, that brought it up. It was like a 4, maybe a 5. But then I did the apple pieces in spiced sauce. That elevated it to probably a 6.
I feel like you're just
Where did the spiced apples come from?
I know. Okay, a 6. Master Reinier.
Mine was pretty good. I would give it like a 7.5, maybe even an 8. I tried the vanilla pound cake. That's dangerous. That is danger zone pound cake right there. That's going downstairs to my wife and daughter to try. It's something that I love about the retention program, everyone loves, is the retention swag. And so I would love to challenge the audience to share your favorite piece of swag that you've ever gotten. Drop that in the comments, and then why don't you guys feature that on the next show? I think that's like a really cool way to just kind of show what some of the units are doing, to just say thank you for those soldiers who continue to serve, and just have some fun with it. Just, you guys are doing great. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys end up with for the rest of the season. So thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it. All right, I'm gonna rate my MRE. I'm just gonna be brutal here. It was gonna be a 0, just straight 0. The pretzel saved it, so I'm gonna give it a 2. It's a 2. I think that's kind. So again, we're gonna wrap this up. I like your idea, Master Reinier. If you've ever received some really awesome retention publicity items, drop it in the chat, and maybe we'll start incorporating some cool comments about that too. So we look forward to seeing you guys on our next show. Our next show, we will post a flyer probably sometime next week, and we're going to go over what is the DMPM, and I'll let you guys dig into that later, and the uniform policy Sergeant Major and the command policy. They're going to come on and they're going to talk to everybody. So we're going to have DMPM Sergeant Major, uniform policy Sergeant Major, and the command, who's working command policy. He's headed to Sergeant Major Academy this summer. So we look forward to seeing you guys on the next one, and have a great night, everybody.